What's goody? What's going on, guys? TG or ThunderGod here, and today we're talking about Jigen, the Chad. I love Jigen's voice actor. I'm the same guy who voices Seto Kaiba, very alpha. I just love him. So today we're talking about him and his debut, and not debut, but like his debut in terms of like combat ability in Boruto episode 203/204. And in those episodes, we are given a remarkable display of Jigen's powers. He goes toe-to-toe with Naruto and Sasuke, who require no introduction in terms of their strength. But it also does beg the question of how strong is Jigen truly as a fighter, and what can he really do? Like, where does he stack up? Is he really that strong, or is he capped, you know? So with that being said, we're going to talk about that today and more on this week's installment of Things Nobody Asked For. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe to the video if you are new here, guys. And with that being said, let's get started. This also will be looking at the anime continuity of Boruto. The manga is its own canon, but there are differences between the anime and manga. For example, Naruto and Sasuke vs. Jigen was a far different fight in the manga in terms of like how long it lasted and how they actually performed against Jigen. There's also other differences, such as Sarada in the manga having a 3-tomo Sharingan versus Boro, whereas in the anime she only has 2 tomo. So there's certain differences with each of the canons. So I'm going to be talking specifically with anime for this video. So starting off the metaphorical bat here, Naruto begins by really just getting blitzed by Jigen in pure taijutsu. He rushes at Jigen, but Jigen's just too fast for him, and Naruto notes this. So it just seems in pure taijutsu, base Jigen is just a step above base Naruto. Nothing really surprising there. And his attacks are also something that I will be like talking about a little bit later in this video, but they really are his best asset besides his like conventional stats and his durability. That being his ability called Suku no Hikona. I said that wrong, but I'm not saying it again. Essentially, it's located in his right eye. It allows him to instantaneously shrink himself or any non-living matter within his gaze and return it to its original size at will. That's the whole deal with the rods. Jigen's able to shrink and expand them along with himself at will. Now, this is technically Ishiki's jutsu, but we're going to be talking about Jigen, who is using it. And on top of Jigen, you know, shrinking and expanding these rods also have the ability to absorb chakra. And they're quite insane because base Naruto got hit by them and he was immobilized for the rest of the fight. He actually required Kurama to help him out and actually like blow off the rods off him while they absorb Naruto's chakra. So they're actually pretty impressive. But Naruto does note these attacks are extremely fast while having his chakra absorbed. And while this is happening, Jigen cleans house on Konohamaru, which is no surprise to anybody. Following this, Naruto goes into 6-pass Kurama mode and is actually able to tag Jigen while he's quote-unquote off guard. This is actually the subject of a lot of debate, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But it should be noted here that it seems Jigen has a substantial level of raw durability. It's kind of similar to how Madara in the Fortunabe War could like tank giant Rasen Shuriken from Sage Mode Naruto and still be fine while being like having his chakra absorbed by Hashirama's Wood Dragon. Same thing here. Jigen's able to take a hit from 6-pass Naruto. You could infer at this point that Naruto is faster than Jigen. He just doesn't have enough, you could say, attack potency, but in this case I'll just say like enough power to damage him with pure taijutsu. You could also infer at this point that Naruto is logically suppressed, as Hokage, his main concern is the villagers, and in this case Kawaki. This is shown many times in the series, but most evidently from his fight with Momoshiki, how he tanked his own, or the Bijou bomb that got thrown at him just to save the villagers' lives. So he's not going to be going all out if it risks the lives of, you know, the villagers within the Hidden Leaf or the Hidden Leaf itself. So to say Naruto's also going all out at this point wouldn't be very fair and prudent. This is also supported when Jigen states that Naruto can't use his full abilities. But that could just be referring to like Naruto having different techniques. So it's kind of just paints this narrative that Naruto's not going all out here and he's not using all of his abilities. Now, what's also interesting is that after experiencing one hit from 6-pass Naruto, Jigen activates his Karma Mark, which amplifies his speed, power, and jutsu potency, which does seem to indicate Naruto in his 6-pass mode, at least at this level of power, is above base Jigen, as it would be illogical to say Jigen would power up unnecessarily to fight Naruto, especially when looking at the issues concerning his stamina and power expenditure. This is further evidenced as Naruto and Jigen have much more of an even taijutsu scuffle with a faster Jigen. Now, Naruto still isn't able to react to the shrinking or expanding rods. You can still see this. And the only time he's able to dodge them is when they're actually out in the open and just thrown at him. So it seems that Jigen's ability is actually far faster, or just appears far faster than he actually is. Which is nothing new, especially when looking at Naruto's series. There's always been attacks that amp your speed. So these rods expanding, being faster than Jigen's base taijutsu, and like Jigen expanding and shrieking, being faster than his base taijutsu, isn't really anything crazy to the series of Naruto, and just shows how powerful of a fighter Jigen really is. Kurama also notes Jigen is far stronger than Delta, which nobody really questioned at this point. Even Kawaki notes this, but Kawaki is a bit less of a reliable source than Kurama, who has experienced both fighters against Naruto in an actual fight, versus somebody who just has, lore and training with both. So yeah, no, Kurama's much more of a valid source, but just really confirms Jigen greater than Delta, which nobody really thought otherwise. Jigen then tries to straight up BFR Naruto, which for those who don't know is battlefield removal. He just tries to throw him into dimension and dip. Then Sasuke shows up and also tags Jigen. And again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying about the durability point. He actually doesn't really do any damage to Jigen. And then the fight commenced between Naruto, Sasuke, and Karma 1 Jigen. Now, following this, Jigen actually shows the ability to take on Naruto and Sasuke very confidently, but it's mostly due to his ability, as he isn't really shown to be blatantly overwhelming them. For starters, both of them are still able to tag Jigen at points during the fight. Sasuke does this at one point with his Raitoon, and I believe Naruto does it at another point. So they're still able to tag him, and they're actually able to take a lot of his hits. So it doesn't seem like his attack potency or like the force he exerts with his actual fist is something unbeatable to them. So they actually seem to be doing pretty well. The whole point of this fight really was for Sasuke to decipher Jigen's ability, while Naruto kind of just distracts him and really gets him to use it more and more. And you actually see this when Sasuke does decipher and relays it to Naruto. They're actually able to react to the expanding rods and Jigen as they shrink and expand. And it's here that we see Naruto and Sasuke begin to actually put pressure on Jigen at this point, as their combo attacks force him on the back foot to shrink, which leads him to almost lose the fight, as he has to hop through a portal. And he no, it's all jutsu have weaknesses. So it seems that without intel, Naruto and post-teleportation Sasuke are relative, but still on the... So it seems that without intel, Naruto and post-teleportation Sasuke are relative, but still on the weaker than Karma 1 Jigen. But when they do have intel, they are able to pressure him very quickly into the next stage of power. And the reason I also put Naruto and Sasuke above Karma 1 with intel is because right after Jigen figures out that they know his ability, he powers up to Karma Phase 2, which is unofficial, but what I'm calling it is I don't got a name for it. And this form produces another amp in speed and power, which is demonstrated as he's much faster during the fight, as well as the fact that it takes far less blows to take out Naruto and Sasuke compared to when he was in Karma 1, and it took far more hits, and that really didn't deter them or anything. Now, the fact that Jigen powers up indicates he felt he would no longer be able to do well in his current stage of power, and would, if anything, eventually lose to Naruto and Sasuke, as they have a clear understanding of his abilities at this point, with them being on par, at the very least, in speed. But even moving further than this, it's somewhat implied Naruto and Sasuke are suppressed, as the minute Jigen powers up into Karma Phase 2, there's a bit of extra dialogue from Sasuke where he talks about the severity of the situation and the importance of taking Jigen down at this moment, in which case Naruto goes into his full Kurama mode and Sasuke enters the perfect Susanoo. And Jigen kind of implies that they're going all out. He's like, oh, I suppose this is you two going all out. And it would make sense for the Kurama avatar and perfect Susanoo to be faster than Naruto and Sasuke individually, as why would they power up into bigger avatars that are the same speed as them to hit a smaller target? So you could even infer that Naruto and Sasuke up to this point weren't even going all out and felt very comfortable taking on Jigen together while suppressed. So them being above Karma 1 Jigen together is very consistent, and there's just a lot of different ways to talk about it. Adapt and overcome. That is what Naruto and Sasuke did to Karma 1 Jigen. But Karma 2 Jigen's its own monster. So it's pretty blatant that Karma 2 Jigen is just too much for Naruto and Sasuke to handle, even both of them together. And this is pretty blatant. We talked about them going all out. They're unleashing more of their abilities. You could maybe say this isn't them going all out and they're trying a different strategy, but I don't really think that's a good argument. But going further than that, it's just pretty clear that Jigen's too much for them in terms of speed and power. He's able to kick Sasuke out of the perfect Susanoo. And there's just a lot of little examples in this sequence of him dominating them. For example, there's like a little bit where Jigen's actually seen deflecting a Bijou Bomb with his hand while dodging and restraining Naruto's tails. And actually, even after being swapped with Sasuke's Amino Tajikara, his Rinnegan teleportation, which actually is very effective even against like opponents who are superior to him in all their stats. Naruto's unable to hit Jigen with an opening and just starts lashing out. And Jigen then proceeds to beat Naruto around so much that he just knocks him out of his like 6 paths cloak. Now, the interesting thing about Jigen is his stamina and how much power he actually expends determines how long he can really fight. This is evidenced further as after the fight, he's seen taking days to recover and isn't even at 10% power. And before the fight, you could actually somewhat imply he might be stronger than he is normally, as he's seen taking chakra from the 10 tail, so he could be above his max at this point, or he could simply just be recuperating to his max to fight Naruto and Sasuke. Both are equally valid. So it's clear Jigen is a fighter that requires a lot of time to recuperate, especially when combating someone of relative strength for a substantial period of time. And there's a lot of really neat little bits in this whole fight, as, for example, Jigen's able to eliminate a large group of adult Naruto shadow clones. I actually paused on one frame of the fight and counted almost 50 clones on 1/4 of the circle. And there's way more than double this amount of clones, so we assume on the lower end that Naruto summoned like 100 to 200 clones. Then it means Jigen was just able to one-shot all of them, and it's pretty crazy when you think about it. He's just able to finesse hordes of like adult Naruto's clones, the same like clones that could swap hands with Madara's Limbo clones that are the same strength or said to have, you know, the same ability as the original in the data book. So Jigen's crazy. He's crazy impressive. You know, he's got a really solid hacks that allows him to just finesse these god tier fighters. And in all honesty, if it wasn't for Sasuke in deciphering Jigen's ability, and Jigen notes this as he says, Sasuke, you're the greater threat right now because of the fact that you were able to do that, Naruto and Sasuke like would have lost, or Naruto himself just would have gotten clobbered. As you could even argue like Sasuke would have done better by himself just because he would have had an easier time figuring out Jigen's abilities. So